This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Ontario election is right around the corner. February 27th is the big day, encouraging everyone to go to those advance polls to make sure your voice is heard. I'm Sam Laprade. We're getting to know all of the candidates across all the different ridings here in the Ottawa area. Today we're focused on Kanata-Carleton. I'd like to welcome our candidates today, Jennifer Purdy, Dave Belcher, and of course Karen McCrimmon. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to start with opening remarks. Jennifer, please go first.
Hello et bonjour à tous. I am Jennifer Purdy. I'm a family doctor and a 23-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces. I grew up in Canada, attending Stephen Leacock and the Earl of March. I graduated from the Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston, and my medical degree is from the University of Ottawa. I lived in Dunrobin on 6 Line Road from 2015 until 2023, and I now live in Beaverbrook with my 2.5-year-old triplets, 2 girls, 1 boy. I represent the Green Party, which seems to be the only party that is taking this election and your vote as seriously as it can be done. A few years ago, as a small business owner, and I went to the bank for a loan to open my medical clinic in Canada. I needed a financial plan, or else the bank would have laughed at me. The Green Party is the only party that has a platform and has it fully costed out. Planned spending by the Ontario government totaled $214 billion in 2024. For that amount of money, don't you think the other parties should show their work and share their costed platform? I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dave.
Hi there. My name is Dave Belcher, and I'm the candidate for Kanata-Carleton for the Ontario NDP. I'm a resident of Morgan's Grant in Canada. I've been living there for 17 years, and I'd like to start today as a resident of Morgan's Grant by sending a message of support to Unifor 1541 and PSAC 70369, the workers at Best Theratronics, who have been on strike for 295 days in Canada. I want those workers to know that they have my support and the support of the NDP, and I wish them all the best. I've been living in Morgan's Grant for 17 years. I've been working for 17 years in public education as well. I live there with my 3 kids, and my wife and partner is a healthcare worker in Canada as well. I'm pleased to be here tonight, and I welcome my other candidates as well. I'm entering into this political life to end 7 years of underfunding and devaluing of our public services. Public services like education, like healthcare, should be the backbone of a healthy and strong society, and we need to elect a government.
Thank you so much. Karen McCrimmon.
All right. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to join you here today. I'm the candidate for the Ontario Liberal Party. I won the by-election about 1.5 years ago, and now we're back in this midwinter election, which we have not had in over 100 years. And so, I mean, I'm running to represent the people of Kanata-Carleton because I care. And this what's happening right now here in Ontario is absolutely detrimental to our ongoing health and well-being. I mean, he's added $100 billion of debt to Ontario's debt. Healthcare is crumbling. 11,000 people in our riding do not have a family doctor. And that has domino effects on our local hospitals and other healthcare facilities. We need better support for education. Housing is unaffordable. We're the second highest rents in Ontario outside of Toronto. So education needs more funding. So this is why I'm running. Thank you.
We're going to start with a question for each of you as we go down. We're going to start with you, Jennifer. We'd like to start with a question regarding schools. We know that many parents are frustrated by the lack of school resources, the number of portables, the lack of teachers, lack of special educators, etc. Would you ensure, or how would you ensure, that the school system here in the province of Ontario gets a passing grade for parents and students?
Yeah, thank you. Education is a right and needs to be adequately funded at all levels. How can we guarantee that secondary, post-secondary, and also primary education gets the money it needs. Well, the money has been wasted by the Ford government. Billions upon billions of dollars have been wasted for a spa, for an early election, and to cancel the contract so that we could get alcohol into corner stores. So instead, we can be putting some of the revenue that Ontario gets from taxation into the education system and into maintaining the schools, because school maintenance has also been lacking, also supporting, of course, the teachers and also another support staff supporting the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Debate.
Well, it's a shame that our Conservative candidate couldn't be here today because he would be asked to defend a record that's actually really indefensible when it comes to public education. Per student funding is down by $1,500 since 2018. In real dollars, that means that the schools in our communities are short by millions of dollars. Earl of March, $2.3 million. A.Y. Jackson, $1.4 million. Huntley Centennial, $851,000. This would be money in the system available to our students to help support their needs. And I've been fighting for public education and better funding for public education for my entire career. And for the last 7 years, it's been a destructive cycle of undervaluing and under-resourcing our school system.
And not only at the elementary and secondary school, post-secondary is exactly the same. In Ontario, spends less per capita on post-secondary education than any other province. And we're the richest province in Canada, and yet we're spending the least amount of money. It's just not right. We have to invest in our future. Canada's Tech Park is there because of the investment made in higher education 30 and 40 years ago. If we're not making the same investments today, we're not going to have that kind of a economic powerhouse in our community any longer.
When we talk about education funding, sometimes the numbers are so big that they become abstract, but what we can think about is what is the actual impact inside our schools. The Ottawa-Carleton District School Board, which is the largest school board in our province or in our city, has a $15 million funding gap that they need to close. And what that means is that they've said that they are actually investigating looking at cheaper toilet paper to try to find cost savings. So that's appalling in our society today. This is a $1 billion organization that's looking for savings on toilet paper. This is a symptom of a system that has been absolutely abandoned by the Ford government, and we need to do better.
Yep.
Rebuttal.
So in keeping in mind, this is not a policy failure. This is yet another example of a policy choice by the Ford government. As Dave knows, as a teacher, class sizes are essentially, and they're even more essential, I would argue, for the kids who may not be doing the best in class. They need a little bit more attention. So we have to do a lot better in terms of funding, and the money is in the system because of policy choices for a $2.2 billion spa. That is why we can't have nice things like an education system, but we can with a difference.
We know the residents of Kanata-Carleton are having a very difficult time in terms of the golf course lands and the challenges they've had with development in that area. What will you do to protect the people of Kanata-Carleton in terms of the issue regarding the golf course lands?
Well, the first thing that we need to make sure that we're doing is listening to the residents of Kanata-Carleton. Development is, there is a push and pull to development. We need more housing, we need to build more housing, we need more affordable housing, but that can't come at the cost of the green spaces which make our communities livable, which make them vibrant, which serve the needs of the residents in a variety of different ways. And so we need to, as we're looking at development, as we're looking at building these houses, we need to be considering how are we going to bring the voice of the stakeholders into those discussions? How are we going to make sure that the people who are involved with those in those communities are part of the decision-making process and can look at that decision-making process as one that's been done with integrity and one that's been done with transparency? And so the first thing that we need to do is listen to those stakeholders, make sure that when they have concerns, they are heard by our government, and make sure that we bring those concerns forward.
Thank you. Debate.
And I would like to say that I've been supporting the Kanata Green Space Protection Coalition for more than 10 years now, helping them fight this abrogation of a contract. When they bought their homes, their contract said there was a 40% green space agreement included, and now they want to go back on that, on those kind of promises, commitments in a contract. We just have to continue to fight, because these people entered into a contract with a reasonable expectation that the terms of that contract would be respected, and now they're not, and we've got to have their back.
So this is a great opportunity to talk about climate crisis, because climate crisis isn't going anywhere. Karen McCrimmon, for example, she submitted a bill for stormwater management, and stormwater management is a key issue for the golf course and in terms of it for any development that might occur. The other piece, too, is that any green space acts as a heat sink, and this is becoming more important as cities get warmer and get hotter. Pardon me, it's not warm, it's hot some days now, in June, July, even May now in Ottawa. So the essential piece here is to have assuming, depending on the outcome of the Supreme Court of Canada case, it depends on, to me, having a bit of it's a push and pull, a bit of a tension, as Dave said, in terms of development versus preserving green space as much as possible. Perhaps one of the alternatives or considerations should be to have some development along Compo and to have intensification that will also, intensification in terms of development, that will also meet the City of Ottawa's own planning guidelines. Thank you.
And I'll also bring up the idea, without new stormwater management guidelines, they're 30 years old now. 30 years old, and climate change has caused a change in our precipitation patterns, the intensity of it, the duration of it. So we need these things, and it's not even just for Kanata. Other communities that are doing this kind of infill build will need the same requirements.
One thing I will say is that the current plan as submitted is unacceptable. There's not enough green space whatsoever.
Thank you. Rebuttal.
Yeah, and I would just add that the same thing is true not only in Kanata Lakes with regards to the golf course, but outside the city as well. When we're developing, we need to make sure that we're doing that intensification. The Ontario NDP is committed to increasing intensification along existing transit corridors within our urban boundaries so that we don't continue to develop into the arable farmland. That's important for green space. That's important for the climate. That's also important for food security. We need to make sure that we're using our space well and using it effectively.
Thank you so much. Karen, healthcare is a top issue for people here in Ontario. Bursting emergency rooms, lack of family doctors, long wait times. It's been a challenge for many Ontarians. What would you do to ensure the health of Ontarians is put first in this province?
There is so much work that needs to be done in healthcare. And I agree with my honourable colleague from the Green Party. The money is there. It's what are your priorities? And the priorities of this government have not been healthcare. In our riding of Kanata-Carleton, 11,000 people don't have a family doctor. And we all know that family doctors are the foundation of our healthcare system. And if we don't have family doctors, we're going to see follow-on domino effects in overcrowded emergency rooms, more hallway medicine, delays in getting diagnostics and things like that. So we have a plan. Within 4 years, everyone in Ontario will have a family doctor. The plan has been reviewed by experts in the field, and they said it's achievable.
Debate.
So the issue is that, I mean, 4 years is a long time to wait for a family doc, and I do appreciate, I think all the three parties here at the table, at least, who've shown, PC Canada is not here, we all look at increasing the number of seats in universities for doctors and nurses, and we also, and other healthcare workers, and we also look at increasing speeding up the credentialing process for international medical graduates of all stripes and international nursing graduates, et cetera. However, the short-term solution, of course, is to pay doctors and nurses what they're worth, and other healthcare workers what they're worth. Stop bashing the unions that represent nurses and other healthcare workers in this province, which is something that Ford has done repeatedly, and it's been disgraceful. So the short-term solution, of course, is to pay people more, because there's doctors and nurses who are not working in the system as much. They're cutting back because of the disrespect and the burnout and the lack of pay, lack of benefits for nurses as well, that is the way forward. And again, I agree with Karen, I agree with Dave. It's where the money is put. The money is there. We deserve nice things. We deserve a healthcare system that functions for all of us.
Let's not forget that the wages of healthcare workers were artificially and illegally limited by Bill 124 under the Ford government, which mandated a 1% wage increase at a time when inflation was 8%. This is not the actions of a government that is seeking to retain healthcare workers. This is not the actions of a government that is placing a value on healthcare workers. if you listen to the leaders' debate, you'd think that this government was providing more and more and more for our healthcare system. It just simply isn't. Not in real dollars, not in per capita dollars. According to the Canadian Institute for Health Information, we have the lowest per capita spending on healthcare in Canada, and every issue that we have, wait times, family doctors, long-term care facilities, they are getting worse, and they have been getting worse for the last 7 years.
Thank you. Rebuttal.
All right. I think it's so important. Healthcare is the number one issue. When I'm knocking on doors, and I've knocked on a lot of doors, even just over the last 18 months, not having a family doctor is the most important thing to people, and that's why it has to go to the top of our list. So we all agree that more funding for healthcare is absolutely required, and the compensation for doctors. They don't all want to be small business people. Some of them just want to be doctors. We need to pay them well accordingly to what they want.
Thank you. We know that President Donald Trump has threatened tariffs and has already imposed levies on steel and aluminum imports into the United States. How will you ensure Ontarians are protected from the financial challenges these tariffs would cause? Jennifer.
Thank you. So to me, there's two arcs to supporting Ontarians from the threat of tariffs, or if the tariffs are enacted. The first piece, of course, is, as said by many, is to diversify. So much trade is occurring with the states, and I think Canadians, and here in Ontario too, got very comfortable with that arrangement. That clearly is not working, and it's not a 4-year threat. This is a potential threat for the future as far as we can see. So we need to diversify our trade, number one. And number two, we need to protect both individuals and businesses, and this is part of the Green Plan. We need to protect people in the short term. And I'm going to actually say a shout out to the federal Liberals who have announced that...
Thank you. Debate.
Sorry.
The key thing that we need to do is protect the workers who are affected by these industries. We cannot predict, and evidence has shown we can't predict what Donald Trump is going to do. It is unpredictable, and it is going to have massive impacts in our economy. The one thing that we can make sure that we do is protect the workers who are here, who are going to be affected by those things. And the NDP is a party that has shown historically, by standing up for workers' rights, by standing up for union rights, by standing up for organized labor in general, that we can and will support the workers of this province, no matter what the outcome is of the tariffs.
So the only problem with that is that the NDP is the same party, believe it or not, whether it's NDP Ontario or the federal NDP party of Canada. And the federal NDP party did not do a great job of standing up for workers. So with the rail strike or the Canada Post strike in the last year. So one thing I would add also, it is about, we have to support workers, we have to support small businesses, but we also have to support people with disabilities, because when there was at the height of the pandemic, when the pandemic first started, there was a program to help everyone, and we need something similar to that for this situation should it occur, with a needs-based assessment. But people with disabilities were left out of that, and it was cruel because it was identified and nothing was changed.
And I'd like to say these are negotiating tactics, right? We've seen them. He's going to ask for something he hasn't had yet, the 51st state, and then he's going to threaten, which is tariffs, and then he's going to wait for us to fight amongst ourselves, and then pick away at us piece by piece by piece. What we need is unity. We need to be working together. We can't have the premiers go down to Washington. I mean, Trump treated Doug Ford with absolute contempt, just having him meet with some mid-level staffer. And so what we need is unity to work together to fight these tariffs.
Rebuttal.
And I fully agree that we need unity within the province of Ontario and within the premiers as well, and they need to fall behind, I'll be honest, a Canada First approach while the Ontario government looks after Ontario residents and makes sure everyone, individuals and businesses, are taken care of and we don't leave anyone behind, number one. Number two, I disagree that this is a negotiating tactic. I would be very careful with this. I honestly am of the belief that what's going on with Trump in the United States.
We know that keeping the lights on, keeping food in the fridge, getting kids into extracurricular activities, affordability is an issue here in the province of Ontario. Dave, what will you do to ensure the people of Ontario can afford to live in this province?
Well, the first thing that we need to pay attention to is that affordability is deeply connected to the availability of our public services. Privatization of public services means that people need to reach into their own pockets to pay for things that they need in our society, and that costs them real dollars. When you pay out of pocket for medical care, when you pay out of pocket for supports for your children in schools, when you pay out of pocket for autism funding because the government has shifted it from a needs-based model to a flat rate model, when you pay out of pocket for long-term care, or support your parents, or support your aging relatives with unpaid care, as many Ontarians are doing, then you are missing out on affordability issues. We need to make sure that the items that we buy are...
Thank you. Debate.
Not only that, but we also have to, in terms of affordability, people with Ontario on Ontario Works is for people who are unemployed and people living with disabilities who are unable to work on ODSP. They have been getting below poverty, income to the point that they cannot even afford to rent a place, let alone feed themselves, and we all need to eat. So that is a huge piece where the Green Party is proposing will double both ODSP and Ontario Works, and with a goal of implementing a basic income. Thank you.
And the Ontario Liberal Party is committed to doing the same thing. I totally agree. People living on ODSP, it's not a livable stipend at the present time. Listen, the cost of living has gone up here in Canada since 40%. That's a lot. When the inflation is actually, people are struggling. And so the Ontario Liberal Party kind of went, so we have to help them. We have to do something that we can do. So what we've done is actually remove the HST off of heat and hydro, whatever you use to heat your home, and also a middle-class tax cut, which will probably end up saving you maybe total $1,100 a year, but it's something. People have to recognize that right now people are struggling, and we have to do something in order to help them. We also need phased-in rent control. We need it back.
We definitely need that. And the other thing we need is, and the Green Plan is proposing, because climate crisis is an issue, but we can make some of the fixes affordable. So, for example, the Green Party, is proposing to give a free heat pump to households where their income is under $100,000, and to give zero interest loans to people in housing where their income is over $100,000.
So we need to make sure...
Your rebuttal starts now.
Oh, thank you. We need to make sure that we're also addressing the major items in our budgets that are chewing into our affordability. Housing is a big part of that. And with due respect, a tax cut isn't going to help if with $1,100 extra dollars I can't afford to buy a home. A heat pump isn't going to be helpful if I can't afford to buy a home. And so we need to make sure that we're addressing housing as an affordability issue, make sure that we're building accessible housing, affordable housing that people really can buy so they live in the communities that they want to live in.
Thank you so much. We know small businesses have been through many hardships in the last 5 years, from the pandemic closures to labor shortages and to the red tape for small business owners. Karen, it's been challenging. How will you support small business owners in Ontario?
Thank you for that awesome question. It's exactly where we need to be thinking, because 80% of business is small business. And here in Ottawa, 90% of the businesses in Ottawa are small businesses. So look at the Kanata Tech Park. I mean, it provides maybe $13 billion worth of the GDP every year. These are the people that need our support. And if we're going to be talking tariffs, they're going to need the government's support. But we also have to look at unemployment. Unemployment in 2018 was 5.8%. It's now 7.6%. People can't find jobs. So we have to make investments in people, and we have to help small businesses.
Thank you. Debate.
So the Green Party proposes implementing a commercial renters bill of rights to protect small businesses from unexpected cost increases, and that's one thing we can do. The other thing, too, is just from a philosophical perspective, to ensure that small businesses are taken care of should tariffs be enacted, and also make sure that they are protected and treated a little bit differently, because the difference between small businesses and large corporations, of course, is that any profit that they make, much of it will go back into the local economy. Large corporations, the profit that they make, a lot of it goes just into, it becomes lost money, I believe, or dead money is the term used by Mark Carney.
Again, this is an issue of affordability, and again, this is an issue of public services as well. Small business owners take on the entire job of operating their business. If something happens to them, their business stops operating. And so we need to make sure that when those people need medical care, that they can get it. We need to make sure that when their aging parents need long-term care, then they don't have to stop working to do that. Large companies, large corporations can absorb if part of the workforce is unable to do something, but it still has a cost for economy. But that is crippling for small businesses. If there is an obstacle to their participation in the economy, their business simply stops working. And so we need to make sure that we are there to prevent those obstacles from hitting them.
Rebuttal.
All right, so we've committed to cutting the small business tax rate in half. We've also committed to having more businesses be eligible for this tax cut. We've committed to creating 40,000 new co-op, internship, and apprenticeship spots in Ontario. And we're going to allow employers to claim up to 20% of the wages for each apprenticeship. So we need to help these small businesses keep growing.
Thank you so much to all of our candidates. We're going to do closing statements. Karen, I'm going to start with you.
Doug Ford has failed here in Ontario. He's added $100 billion to our debt. We have the worst healthcare records right across the country. We have the worst record for housing starts across the country. Public health care, public education, public green spaces, and agricultural land are all under threat. He's got a majority government. He didn't need this election in the middle of February, but he's asking for the people of Ontario to give him 4 more years. My mother said, whatever behavior you reward is the behavior you're going to get. So please do not reward this behavior. The people of Kanata-Carleton deserve someone who's going to stand up, who's proven to stand up and be there for them when it's needed. We must hold this government to account. Together we can do that on February the 27th. Thank you.
Closing statement, Dave.
The best predictor of future outcomes is past performance. And for the last 7 years, we've seen the performance of the Doug Ford Conservatives to be one that is anti-public service, that is anti-supports for the people of Ontario, and is actually hurting the people of Ontario in a myriad of ways, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, long-term care, affordability, housing, it can go on and on. What we've seen for the last 7 years from the NDP is a party that has been in the official opposition and has at every turn been holding this government to account, advocating for stronger public education, advocating for safer opening of schools during the pandemic, advocating for better long-term care facilities, advocating for the repeal of Bill 7, which would ship elderly patients off to long-term care facilities up to 150 kilometers away from their homes. The NDP has been there for the last 7 years. They have been the ones holding the opposition to account.
Jennifer.
It is so disappointing that the PC candidate did not come today. And there is so much going on and many issues that need attention and care after years of intentional neglect or worse, abuse. I have the qualifications and the gravitas to be your MPP in such times as this. I am a family physician who understands the healthcare system. I am a retired major in the military, so I know how to work well with others in order to achieve the objectives. The objectives being here, tackling healthcare, tackling education, housing, climate crisis, and the affordability crisis. Furthermore, I am Green, and the Green Party is the only party that has released a platform, and it is costed as well, so you can trust the numbers. Kanata-Carleton deserves somebody who will work with every MPP, regardless of party, in order to get us what we all deserve, what we need, and what we are paying for with our own tax dollars. Please lend me your vote so we can work together for a much brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our candidates today. We did invite all candidates in this riding, and these are the 3 candidates that took us up on the invitation. February 27th is fast approaching. I encourage you to get out and vote in those advanced polls. We just never know what Mother Nature will bring on Election Day, especially with a winter election. So encourage you to get out there and vote. Head to electionsontario.ca for where to vote in your community. I'm Sam Laprade. We appreciate you watching the debate here for Kanata-Carleton. Thank you so much.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at